It's Antonio with Black Ops Fitness. I'm here with my friend Jeremy with More Than Fitness. It's kind of an exciting moment. We're 2 days out from the Murph. We've already raised $11,300. We're $700 away from our $12,000 goal that 23rd veteran kind of started us with. I just bumped that down to 8,000 because I thought I didn't want to put too much pressure on you guys. But as usual, you guys knocked it out of the park. And the purpose of today's video was to, number one, say thank you for everything that you guys do and getting us to this moment, making the Murph successful again. We just finished building the rig today, our fastest time ever, because so many of you helped us. Super thankful for that. What's really important is that you know where your money's going, and that is kind of what we're going to talk about on the video today, and kind of prep you for what's coming this summer at Black Ops Fitness with 23rd Veteran. So this summer, you know, Jeremy and I are going through a 14-week program, and it's to help veterans who are struggling with trauma, past trauma, service related, from at all different levels. And we were able to get enough veterans at Black Ops Fitness to run this program. It's called the Anchor Program. And in 2 weeks, we're heading out to Washington State to do 6 days in the wilderness in the mountains with guides. And I wanted to share with you Jeremy's story. And we're planning to do a much longer form version of this when we're in the program, and to keep you guys posted on our progress through the program and the other veterans that are going along with it. But I really, you know, Jeremy's story is super powerful, and I just wanted to give it an opportunity to share it with you and to talk a little bit about his nonprofit, More Than Fitness. So, Jeremy,
yeah,
take it
thanks,
away.
Antonio. I appreciate it. I know I've been coming here for a few months, kind of consistently, and I know yesterday or maybe a week ago, I was talking to one of the coaches and casually mentioned that couldn't walk before, and she was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And I just, you know, I'm an egotistical maniac, so I took for granted that everybody knows everything about me. But it is, you know, I'm very grateful for you and this gym for how seriously you take Memorial Day. Memorial Day has always been something that has been a challenge for me. You know, people wish veterans happy Memorial Day, which would drive me crazy. And the idea that you're doing something like this on Memorial Day and raising money for this program that's going to benefit me is really powerful. So I just wanted to say that I really appreciate that.
Man.
You know, so I joined the Army a little bit later in life. Like I was 20 when I went in, I was already 21. So
that's old in the military.
Yeah, right. People are like sergeants by the time they're 21. I was a PFC, and it right away that set me apart from my peers, like a little bit higher. I wasn't 18, and I'd lived by myself and had a job and done all kinds of stuff. So like I got a lot of extra opportunities. You know, I was able to put myself in positions where they were going to like offer me extra trainings and send me the extra this and put me in positions to do this and that. And the whole time, all I wanted to do was deploy. I knew I wanted to deploy to Afghanistan. And that happened, right? Of course, I wanted it. And I got there. And at first it was like a super jarring experience. We said it was sort of like landing on the moon. Even the sand is different over there. Everything is different. And then after you sort of adjust to what the world is like there, it's not really shocking anymore. You know, the most shocking things that have happened in my life, immediately after them, I would just like brush them off like it was nothing. You get really bonded with the people that you're there with. It's you know, it's probably closer relationships than anybody else that I have. And I've got really good friends, really solid friends for a long time. Like I've known Nick Totaro for like 25 years, and it's nothing compared to the months that I spent deployed. And like as this program goes on, hopefully I'll become more and more comfortable talking about deployment. You know, before we got on here, Antonio and I were kind of going over what to say, and I was like, I've talked enough, like in therapy and stuff. I know what I'm not going to talk about, and you know, the specifics of deployment is not what I'm going to talk about today. But the story that Antonio is referring to is around this time, almost exactly 11 years ago, I got hurt on deployment. I fell into a well that had been covered up. I dropped 60 feet. I broke a ton of bones in my legs and feet. I had a spinal cord injury. I cracked 3 vertebrae. I broke all my ribs on my, let's see, this is the right side of my body. I tore up my shoulder, ripped a bunch of ligaments out, and I had a traumatic brain injury all in like one instant, 1 second. I did not have any of that. And then the next second I did. And that was like a surreal experience. Even now, when I think about, I took a step and then I was just falling and had this sensation of falling. And I was like, oh, I'm probably dead. I must have stepped on an IED. Like that's the only explanation for I was just walking. There was ground in front of me, and now I'm falling. And I was falling for so long that I was able to remember a class that we took before we deployed about these specific things, these wells that are called caresses, and that some of them are 200 feet deep. And I probably created this like movie story in my head, but this is what I remember. I remember falling, recognizing, remembering that those, like sitting in that stupid class in Fort Polk, Louisiana, seeing like there's 200-foot holes that you can just fall into. And I was like, oh, I'm falling into one of them. That's it.
You found one.
Yep, I'm there. But luckily it was not 200 feet deep. And luckily I like pinballed off the sides. So it slowed my descent. I was unconscious for a while. I mean, nobody took out a stopwatch, but I came to down in the bottom of a hole in the middle of the night with chem lights all around me, which for regular people are just glow sticks. But in the military, we gotta call them something way cooler.
Yeah.
So they're called chem lights. And my options were, you can climb out, or you can wait for like 3 hours for us to get equipment out here to lift you out. So I was like, fuck this. I'm in the middle of a hole in the middle of the night, in the middle of Afghanistan. I want out. And all these other people are up top, out in the middle of like an open field, completely vulnerable to any sort of attack, and they just have to stay there. So they lifted up my heavier equipment, like my weapons and my body armor and my ruck, and I used a Leatherman, like the foldable, collapsible Leathermans, to like dig a spot and hold on and put my feet on and then shimmy all the way up to the top of the well. And I almost got to the top. I was probably like 10 feet away, but the well got wider and wider and wider. So, excuse me, I lost my voice yelling a couple of days ago. I was like tiptoes and shoulder blades on the edge on each side, and they had to drop me a rope and tied the rope around my waist, and like I just had to like let go. Hope that it was 550 cord. That's all it was. 550 cord is this like skinny rope, and it's called 550 cord because it can hold 550 pounds. But yeah, like, I've never tested that out. Yeah. I don't know. I'm heavy, and these nerds up top are gonna pull me out, but they did, and I got out. And adrenaline is like an incredible thing. It's, you hear these stories of like women can pick up cars and stuff, and I was like, that's bullshit. Like whatever.
You climb out of a hole.
Real. I climbed out of a hole, and then I walked 7 miles.
Wow.
To like continue the mission. At that point, people were like, "There's something wrong with Moore."
Yeah.
He's like, I wasn't talking correctly. I was like tripping over my own feet and stuff. But I was like stubborn and determined, and wanted to impress the people that I was with, wanted to hold my own, didn't want to be a burden. And so I just like walked and walked and walked and walked and walked. Um, and when we got back to the base, almost immediately they put me on a helicopter and flew me to like a small hospital, and then like a big hospital in Afghanistan, and then a big hospital in Germany. Uh, and I didn't walk unassisted again for 7 years. Um, walker, forearm crutches, canes, wheelchairs, all of it. I did the first year and a half in the Army, going to the hospital all the time. Like I needed somebody to basically take care of me. When I woke up in the morning, my roommate would like take care of me in the beginning. And then it was somebody's job every day to be assigned to me to make sure that I got to my doctor's appointments, to make sure I did this, to make sure I did that. I couldn't drive. I couldn't shower by myself. I needed somebody to be like in the room in case I fell. And I was like under this delusion that I was going to be able to stay in the Army because, as strange as it sounds, and admittedly, I have a lot of problems that I still have to work through from deployment, but deployment was where I wanted to be.
Right.
Imagine you are a college athlete and all you want to do is play in the pros. You get to the pros and you love it. Football players love it, even though they're tearing their bodies up. That's what deployment was like. It was like I have been training and now I'm in the big leagues.
Final test.
Yeah. And I had done relatively well up until the point that I got hurt. I was getting recognized and I was getting respect and positive reinforcement for that stuff. And, in my head, I had built that. It's like the pinnacle of manhood, like I do good on deployment. Ooh,
right.
That's something.
No more doubts.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. No more doubts.
Yeah.
Like I finally proved that I'm tough after all these years. So that was the delusion that I was under. And I was trying to get as better as I could. So like as soon as I could do things physically, I started to do them. So the first thing I could do was swim. And I would go to the pool 2-3 hours before everybody else on an Army base got up. The pool opened at 3 a.m. And so I would get there at 3 a.m. And obviously this didn't happen right away. I had to build up to this, but I would swim from 3 a.m. until 5 a.m., stopping only to, in the pool, stand and salute the flag as it rose in the morning. That was it. Excuse me, I said 3 to 5, 3 to 7, 4 hours. I would swim for 4 hours. It was, tens of thousands of meters because it was the only thing I could do.
Yeah,
I wanted to like stay in shape. It was swim and go to doctor's appointments and go to physical therapy and then go to like some formations, but not, they mostly left me alone.
When you're in that pool, you're staying active, staying mentally.
It's like free.
Yeah.
Like I could walk in the pool. I could make it completely unassisted from one end to the other. I could challenge myself. I could switch up strokes. I could like hold my breath. It was like a very freeing experience, having felt so trapped. And then a few months after that, I could go to the weight room and do like certain upper body stuff and a lot of the bodybuilding things. I spent a lot of time like sitting on the upright bench with a weight belt strapped around my waist and the bench so that I wouldn't fall off, doing military press and bicep curls and I mean, everything. And I would typically have a partner. And then like a year had gone by and I still like, I could only walk with a cane. It would take me like 4 solid minutes to get up all these stairs.
Yeah.
And the Army was like, Like you made a good effort, man, but it's time to go.
Yeah.
Like this, you're taking up a spot, and we're probably going to deploy in the next 6 months, so you got to leave. And they didn't say it like that, but
Right.
they,
Right.
it's called a med board. I got medically retired, which in the moment felt awful, but in hindsight, it was like the best thing
Yeah.
for me.
That hindsight takes a while.
Oh, bro, does it ever? Probably like pro- probably like 6 years before I was like, you know what? Something good did come out of this. And like I had been running my nonprofit for like 2 years at that point.
Yeah.
But it's so
Sure.
hard to come
Sure.
to that. And so anyway, then I got out of the army and I was completely lost. Things were even worse. There was nobody that understood me. I was, whether this was real or I projected it, like everywhere I went, everyone was just taking pity on me. If I went to the gym to like work out, even if what I was doing was impressive, like at one point, I would like forearm crutch my way into the gym and hit 315 without putting my feet on the ground. Um, but when people would be like, yo, man, that's impressive, I would think to myself, like, they mean that's impressive for like a crippled dude.
Yeah.
Like, they don't mean that's impressive in general. And I was angry and like, I was isolated and alone. All of my friends were suddenly gone, and my friends from before couldn't understand. And like, everybody walked on eggshells. I was a lot more like abrasive and standoffish before. People in the gym might view me like that. I'm not really like
He's
that.
got that soft voice though. That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. But before it was much worse. So people just really left me alone, and I just turned right to like avoidance. How can I avoid? I avoided through weightlifting. I avoided through like getting relentless about my physical recovery. I avoided through drugs and alcohol. Um, at first in like a normal way,
Right.
and then in a not normal way,
Yeah.
which is the story of a lot of veterans. It's an easy escape, but I eventually started to get like physically better and better enough where I could be relied on to do stuff. So I started working in the weight room at Mount Pleasant. I went to Mount Pleasant, and my football coach was still really close with me, and unbeknownst to me, he talked to one of the other coaches after he'd seen me and was like, "There's something wrong with him. Like, we need to get him back around here." So that's what they did. He put me in a weight room with 3 kids that needed to learn how to lift weights and learn how to be adults. And it was like, it was the best thing that had ever happened to me. Immediately I had this sense of purpose. Immediately I felt like I was doing something that mattered. There was people who respected my opinion, and I knew that these 3 kids did not have any pity for me.
Sure.
Right? They were looking at me like, I cannot believe that you just ran here on crutches. Like, I don't even want to run on my legs. And that was sort of the beginning of the nonprofit. I had no idea what that was. I had no idea what I was really doing, but I knew that it was something important and something unique. I was able to talk to the kids in a way that their teachers couldn't. I was only a volunteer. I just showed up like after school. I knew the principal. I knew the administrators. I had no fear of like being real with the kids.
Did you feel like, why was it with those kids did you feel that trust that you could kind of let your guard down potentially, or was it
Yeah.
innocence potentially? Like,
Because it it was serving a purpose. Like, my vulnerability was very effective in helping to give them a perspective of the world, to give them something to strive for, to give them the opportunity to mature, the opportunity to become more disciplined. Because it was serving a purpose, I would just tough it through it,
Sure.
which is sort of like what you do in the army.
Right.
It's just hard, but you're a small piece of this bigger thing.
Yeah.
And
It's like
I obviously
it's a new mission for you.
that is exactly correct. It was my new mission. And I was going to do whatever I needed to do to make it as good as I possibly could. And so when I realized how much those kids paid attention to what I said, I was like, oof, I got to get my shit together.
Yeah.
Like, I can't be setting this example of this
This phase here, and then
this person who like, I knew that I had problems.
sure.
I knew that I needed to address them. I knew, at least on a surface level, what I should do, and I was just refusing to do it, which is like not in the spirit of what I was telling these kids to do. So as it started with those three, I got into therapy. I started going to the VA to get some help. I started meditating. I started doing yoga. I started all this stuff, and whatever worked for me, I would bring into the weight room. And I was like, these fucking kids are not going to meditate. And for the first like 2 years, they did it. They were like, and it wasn't the same kids at this point. We're growing, having more kids. They would open their eyes and they would like laugh and giggle, and they would not take it seriously until I would lecture them about how serious it was for me. And then just out of respect for me, they would chill, you know, but they wouldn't really do it. But as my practice got better and deeper and more sincere, and I could speak to it more legitimately. I mean, we all know, like, you come across coaches going through this CrossFit community that you can tell within like 10 minutes, this coach actually knows what they're talking about. Right. They're not like reading from a manual book. You know, I was like reading from a manual book, like trying to articulate these important things. And then I would bring in stuff from therapy, like basic cognitive behavioral therapy, you know, practicing gratitude, looking at the world in a bigger way. And so many of my kids experience trauma, the demographic that I work with. In comparison, right, if you look at it in full scale, it's just as traumatizing as my deployment. Like, I knew what I signed up for.
Sure.
I was 23 when I went.
You had a fighting chance.
Yeah, I was prepared. Kids are 6, 7, 9, 12 when they're exposed to some significantly traumatic events. So it was very easy for me to realize that these are these things that they need. And then from there, the program just exploded and snowballed, and I still was not walking yet. I was still using, you know, a cane or crutches. And then during Obama's presidency, they passed a bill that said if you meet these criteria, you can go anywhere, right? You just have to like jump through this hoop that's not that serious, and you can go anywhere you want. And so I went to go see better doctors than the VA, and in less than a year, I was running.
Wow.
And then the students saw that, like they were around for that. And it was like I was walking on water, you know. That story, like only now, 4 years later, every kid doesn't know that I used to not be able to walk. For 4 years, every kid would be like, can you like not have legs and grow them back? You know, because it always gets dramatic.
Crazier and crazier.
Yeah. But that's that story, like you said, like the powerful story, I use it to affect positive change. You know, and it definitely fuels my ego. Like I'm not close to a saint. Yeah, I do this because it makes me feel good.
Right.
First.
Yeah.
Second, it helps all these other people.
Right.
it keeps me motivated. It keeps me inspired to keep getting better. And like my trajectory has not been just up, right? There's ups and then crashes and ups and crashes and ups and crashes with my physical health, with my mental health, with my sobriety, sober time, and then relapse, and sober time and relapse, and relapse, you know. But having that place to go back to, having that place to serve, it's sort of like the last stop, right? I'm not going to let it get to that where I lose this thing.
That's a difficult position to be in when you're at the head or at the forefront and you're leading and you know you're suffering and taking falls behind the scenes by yourself quietly. And then you know the good and the purpose of what you have to maintain with that group and your position. And so it's like, it's a hard road to not be able to talk about it, because you feel like if you do talk about it too much, again, with people you don't necessarily trust, or is that going to change people's perspective of your leadership or your credibility? And you know the good you're doing and you know you're the right man for that job. And so I think that's kind of what's pushing both of us towards this program.
For sure.
Yeah.
And at first, it was like, let's figure out a way to word this differently. Let's figure out how to do this differently. But now, like, I tell my students exactly where I went. I disappeared for a month in, the end of October, November. I was just gone. And how am I supposed to like explain that away?
Right.
They're in high school.
Right.
Like I can't just blow smoke up their butt. So I told them exactly what it was. I went away because I needed to get a hold of my mental health and I was starting to lose it. I needed to do what I needed to do to take care of myself. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah.
Like they don't see me any differently than they did before I went. And if they do, they're impressed because they saw how I was getting. Most of them that started this year, they only knew this like I was looking through them.
Right.
That was their only experience with me. Not that I was invested in them and not that I was paying attention to them and not that like I love my students into submission. I love them so hard that they're going to do what I want.
Right.
And I wasn't able to do that because I wasn't right.
Yeah.
And they see the difference now from when I came back in December and I see the difference.
Yeah.
Our relationships are different.
I saw you smile at a class the other day. It's like Jeremy was dancing a little bit. He's smiling. Like, this is good.
Yeah, right. And I get that here too. So,
and that was a big catalyst for this journey. Like all of this came so fast, but I heard about your time away and I was kind of just learning about this.
I was in the hospital.
Yeah. No, not prison. Yeah, it sounds like prison. And all I heard was inpatient and I didn't know anything further, but knowing some of your past and knowing, a warrior, when one looks at a warrior, we recognize each other. It wasn't long to put it all together.
Right.
And so, working with that veterans organization, like we got to get this thing moving because there's guys in this house that need this. So all of that energy and everything meant to be is real, and it's kind of in real time right now.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't believe the timeliness of everything. And then it made a little bit more sense when Kelly was like, well, yeah, Antonio heard about you and then was like, well, all right, this is important now.
Yeah.
We have to do this now.
Yeah.
And I think probably the only reason that I agreed to do it is because you agreed to do it, right? Like I needed somebody else to say, I'm not just like signing you up for this program for you, right? Like you need it too.
Right. Absolutely.
And that's the only reason that I was like, okay, I'm down. Right. If it was like, oh, the owner of my gym Antonio works with this veterans organization. Like, here, go fix yourself.
Right.
I'd have been like, go fuck yourself. But the
Yeah.
fact that you're willing to go out there and get your shit put together too, because it's not easy.
No.
It's not like a light decision.
No. And I think that's, a main reason I wanted to shoot this video today, because I wanted to make sure people knew where we were at with it. It's not easy for us. This process isn't easy for us. And the point, it's a team, is kind of what's pushing us towards each other. Like, we met with a team of guys from Black Ops and we shared some things and saw a lot of similarities in what we were sharing, and it didn't take long. And a lot of us have been struggling for a long time. So it was like, for me, it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm seeing changes in my body that is really making me scared, as a father. And I just was like, as these things fell into place, I'm a big man on signs, and I'm like, there's a sign, there's another sign, keep moving forward. And the biggest thing for me, I guess I was just accepting, like, people were like, oh, you shouldn't do this, or you should do this when I got out. And it was like, I've been out for 15 years. And so it was like, that's all you hear. You should do this or you shouldn't do that. And I was just like, okay, never thinking something's wrong with me. And because there's no one to talk to. There's no one to just be like, I think something's wrong with me. And it's kind of a joke, I'm like, oh, I'm crazy. I work really hard. I'm sporadic, nervous, high energy. But once that kept getting worse, and my nervous system and just like the quality of life I'm living through nightmares, sleep, and just paranoia and many other things, it's not how I want to live. And if I have an opportunity to fix that, to be a better father, to be a better friend, to help more people out there, because there's definitely a stigma in the veteran community, and I'm not in the veteran community, but there's a stigma. I get, just to be real with you, some guys overuse this, and that's something I never wanted to be a part of. And it would take a lot for me to trust someone. So I'm blessed to have a gym where I found some veterans that I trust, and we don't know each other that well, but it doesn't really matter because we kind of know each other pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say that, like, we don't know each other really at all.
Yeah.
Other than talking about our veterans experience. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about you. I don't know your kids' names. I don't know when your birthday is. I don't know any of that. However, on this level, we're just as connected as I am with Nick Totaro, who I've known almost my whole life.
Yeah.
And like, that is something that I have been missing too.
Mm-hmm.
When you say there's no one to talk to,
yeah,
there was no one.
Right.
I'm sure. Maybe my experience has been that like, occasionally, sometimes when I've had too much alcohol or when I can't handle whatever's going on, I like make an attempt to talk to somebody.
Yeah.
And I just regret it immediately. It's like the worst thing I could have ever done. I can see,
because it can take away so much of your progress.
Oh my God. I can see this terror in the person's eyes, or like, pity, or like, oh yeah, okay, that's interesting. And I'm like,
yeah,
where is the person that I can say one word and they'll understand it like this, when it would take me 10,000 words to explain it to them. So.
And one of the big parts of the program, so we're going to go on a 6-day wilderness excursion with 2 guides in Washington State Olympic Park, I believe, National Park. And that's wild. So 6 days away from the kids for the first time, and just, we don't know these guys who we're going to see, and they're going to kind of take our stuff, throw it in storage, and we're just going to kind of roll in our one outfit for 6 days. And then I think we're allowed to get a shower before we come back on that flight. The next day is Father's Day, which is pretty awesome. And then it's 13 weeks of workouts at Black Ops at night. We're going to be out of your guys' way and kind of alone, isolated, which is what kind of we need for what we're doing, the power of what we're doing. We're going to be working out 3 times a week at Black Ops, and then we're going to be doing positive psychology after. And I think that's honestly the thing that I'm the most excited about, because, you would think that, like, I don't know, like the way I am, that would be the least thing, the thing I'm least excited about. But honestly, at this point in my life, to sit around with some other guys and just talk about some triggers and talk about, the nervous system, and talk about isolation and talk about depression and anger and fear. It's going to be pretty awesome. I'm excited to just talk about that with some other guys in a trust circle, essentially. Trust tree. We're still in the tree. Um, but the biggest thing is like, this is a big challenge because people have to sacrifice time with their family, their employment, their everything, our fitness. We're changing our workouts. We're doing it at different times, our routines, our schedules. But the point is, for 14 weeks, we're going to sacrifice that so that for the rest of our lives, we can enjoy life. And even though I think at 40 and I dealt with it so long and I'm like, okay, I can deal with this. Maybe one day I'll figure sleep out. Doesn't need to be right now. I can still maintain, I can still push forward with my body. And that's a typical military thing. Like we think we're invincible. And even when the world broke me down, I still think I'm invincible. And then there could be something in the next year or two that's really going to tell me I'm not invincible. And so I know that, you know what I mean? And I don't really want to be that humbled again.
every time you talk, it's like, oh yeah, he's inside of my brain, right? Like
Yeah.
I I have overcome some of those hurdles that you have talked about because I have begun the route in therapy and I was forced earlier than you to address some stuff. But like there's also stuff that you say that I'm like, yeah, that's right. I have that. And I just figured I was just going to deal with that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Um, and that, and it, like you said, it, the effects are bleeding over into the physiological. They're not just psychological.
Sure.
They start to,
And that gets
I'm
real scary.
exhausted.
Yeah.
Because in 11 years, I've probably averaged 2.5 to 4 hours of sleep every night.
Yeah. If you did a sleep study, it'd be scary for whoever did the study.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's just not a way to live. And then you're around people. What are you going to say?
Right.
When they're like talking about, I get good sleep, I rest well. And, especially with my wife, I watch her pass out like that. And I watch my
I
brothers.
take melatonin and I go right to sleep.
I'm like, really? I wake up in an hour and I'm like, oh. So, and that's kind of what's going on and what we're going to be moving through this summer. The Murph is about those who've given the ultimate sacrifice to get as many athletes as we have. It's amazing. So thank you guys for that. Sunday we suffer together, and that's the meaning behind it. This year we do have this program that we're working in Black Ops and with veterans from Black Ops, but also other areas they're coming into to join the program. We were able to get it off the floor at Black Ops. But Sunday will be about remembering those who've died, and then the point of this program for us is to make their lives not for naught, right? So if we're not living our life to the fullest, we're doing them an injustice because they don't get that opportunity. And so that's a two-pronged way of looking at this weekend for us. And that's always a good driving force when that pain hits, and it's going to hit for sure on Sunday. But just the togetherness of what Sunday's going to be with the community together, this new thing that we're going through, newfound strength through vulnerability, and setting a good example for the future for anyone out there that could benefit from the new men that come back from this journey. I think that's really the drive. Like, yeah, of course we want our help, but to serve is to be bigger than oneself. And that's what it's about for us. And so we really wouldn't say, hey, I need help if it was just for us, so.
Correct. And, to talk about the Murph, like I sort of forgot that was the reason we were talking. I got too involved in myself.
No, that was typical. The point. Yeah.
For years, I was miserable about Memorial Day. Miserable because we lost people on deployment. Miserable because it was a great excuse to be miserable. Miserable because I felt like, oh, civilians, they don't understand. It's just about barbecues and of days off. And, I just wanted to be mad. I just love being mad. Self-righteous anger is, it feels great. It's probably better than most drugs. And I remember I found out, like after I started to be able to use my legs again, I was like, okay, I need to do this Olympic lifting, this CrossFit thing, because I can use my legs. I can't wait. And I found out about the Murph, and I was like, huh, there's like an enormous amount of people that suspend their beach trips and their barbecues and their Memorial Day sales to just like essentially punish themselves, to just like go through this awful challenge. And I was like, damn, of course there are. Like, you just wrote everybody into this one little box. Um, and since then, I mean, I wouldn't say my perspective has changed. Like, I still get mad when I see
Sure.
a Memorial Day mattress sale. Like, do your mattress sale on another day, please. Um, but I can remember, like, there is this massive community that decide as a whole that on this day, the way to honor those who have given their lives is this like relentless pursuit towards improvement. Saying to yourself, I'm not sure if I can do this thing, right? I'm not sure if I can do it with a vest, or I know this is going to hurt really bad, but let me challenge myself, you know? And I remember the first time I did the Murph, and I was like, I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I could do it at that time or with that vest or with this. And it inspired me to like pursue the next goal and the next goal. And something that I've been saying for years about Memorial Day, like especially when my friends are like, what am I supposed to say to you? What am I supposed to do on this day? Like, I don't want to get you mad. Just do whatever. Just like live your life. Like, live a life that is worthy of the sacrifice. However you see that, whatever you think that is, if that's spending time with your family, if that's being a better parent, a better mentor, a better employee, healthier, happier, if it's volunteering, if it's doing, if it's working for a nonprofit, whatever it is, everybody does decent things. Do them more and do them better.
Yeah.
That's how you say thank you, right? Don't say thank you to me on Memorial Day. I didn't pay that price. Don't feel sorry for me because my friends are dead. Don't feel sorry because people are dead. Go be better.
Yeah.
Because that's what the sacrifice was for. We all knew what we signed up for. It was not as much of a surprise. And I know my friends, and I know that what they would want is for us to be better. And then hopefully that ripples across and make improvements in our city, in our state, and in our country.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's just amazing, as the years have grown, as it's grown over the years, and it is a lot of work. It's a huge endeavor. But I just already can visualize what Sunday looks like. And, you guys are the ones that do that. So it's just amazing because it's just bringing us back to what's really matters. And I always had this, I don't want to say anger, but it would get in my head. And I was like, if your kid was over there, it would be the thing you cared about the most. And a lot of times in this country, the politics have just overwhelmed Americans to become divisive against each other. And that's the biggest insult you could ever do to someone who served this country, is to fight each other because you have a different belief structure. You need to respect one another no matter what, because everyone has freedom in this country. And, just because you have a different belief doesn't mean that's your enemy, especially if it's something you're super passionate about. Sit next to them, listening to them, and chat with them and respect their opinion. And then hopefully they do the same to yours. And we're not here to scold you or talk to you, but I mean, that's how this country continues towards greatness. And we all can do that in a small way, just like Jeremy just said, by doing more and doing it better. And you guys inspire us to do that. Two guys that are, in the service industry and have a lot of challenges with whether our own perceptions of ourselves or, purpose, fatigue, and just being alone. Sometimes it's difficult, when you don't have someone to talk to when you're at the top, essentially. So like what you guys do, how you support us and More Than Fitness. There's gonna be plenty of news coming down. You know, they're gonna have their competition in September, I believe.
Yep.
So we're gonna be a big part of supporting that, and you guys already have been doing that. Learning more about Jeremy, and like he said, you know, these kids, stuff that we're like, oh, we're gonna throw this out, and he's like, no, I can use all that. And we're like, that was an eye opener for me personally, to be like, what else do you need? Let me know, and we'll start collecting stuff. So we are really thankful.
Knee sleeves. We need some old knee
Knee
sleeves.
sleeves. There we go. We'll just wash them first, and then we'll hook them up.
Wash them.
Some of you were just going to retire your knee sleeves. You know, we're going to tell you, we're like, those are retired. Take them off. We're going to disinfect them and
like
send them
those knee
forward.
sleeves. Give them to me.
But yeah, so we're really thankful, guys, and you know, just like everything Jeremy said, that's the whole thing for Sunday, and so we're really thankful. We're going to have this great day together. Super excited about it. And Jeremy, thanks again for your time today and sharing your story and your testimony. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sweet.
And thanks to anyone who's going to take the time to listen to this long ass video.
They're used to it with me. So I'm like, yeah, this will be short. But thanks again, guys. We'll see you on Sunday.
See ya.
All right. Shit, man.
Yes.